On July 9, 1982, 31-year-old painter and decorator Michael Fagan broke into Buckingham Palace and made his way to the Queen's bedroom, in what was one of the biggest royal security breaches of the 20th century. The outrageous episode also features in Season 4 of The Crown. Here, Charlotte Hodgman, editor of BBC History Revealed, explains what really happened. Hello and welcome to Royal Scandal. Please do well to like, subscribe, comment and turn on the notification bell so as not to miss out on any news updates. As Britain's longest reigning monarch, it's fair to say that Queen Elizabeth II had probably seen it all. Prime ministers have come and gone, the royal family itself has endured scandal and division, battles on both a personal and international level have been fought, won and lost. But in 1982, not long after celebrating her 56th birthday, the Queen became embroiled in one of the most bizarre and shocking episodes of her reign, an event that would secure a place in history as one of the biggest royal security breaches of the 20th century. At about 6:45 am on July 9, 1982, 31-year-old painter and decorator Michael Fagan scaled one of Buckingham Palace's 14-feet perimeter walls, precariously navigated its barbed wire and spiked crown, dropped quietly and unnoticed into the palace grounds and tried, unsuccessfully, to access the wider palace through a ground floor window. After shinning up a drainpipe, Fagan, who later confessed to having imbibed several glasses of whiskey before enacting the audacious stunt, removed his socks and sandals before entering the palace through an unlocked window. After smashing and accidentally cutting his hand on a glass ashtray, which he intended to use to slash through pigeon netting on the roof as he exited the building, a bleeding Fagan, still clutching fragments of glass, began wandering the empty corridors. Fagan later claimed he had intended to slash his wrists with the glass in the presence of the Queen, an intention that had formed in his mind after smashing the ashtray. What did Michael Fagan say to the Queen? Precise details of what happened next have changed through the years, with Fagan himself altering his story several times. What we do know is that, at around 7:15 am, the disheveled intruder, barefoot and tipsy, eventually made his way to the Queen's bedroom, whereupon he gazed down at his no doubt startled and highly alarmed monarch in bed. With the poise and calm for which she is famous, the Queen apparently asked Fagan, "What are you doing here?" before summoning help via an emergency buzzer. Initial reports that she stalled Fagan in 10 minutes of conversation while waiting for security are, according to later interviews with the intruder, unfounded. "Nah, she went past me and ran out of the room, her little bare feet running across the floor. Her nightie was one of those Liberty prints and it was down to her knees," said Fagan in a 2012 interview with The Independent. The Queen found herself in a predicament. The police sergeant who guarded her door at night had gone off duty at 6 a.m., the footman was outside exercising the dogs, and 2 phone calls made by the Queen to the palace telephonist asking to send police to her bedroom had failed to bring help. But Her Majesty eventually managed to attract the attention of the maid and together they ushered Fagan into the pantry on the pretext of supplying him with a cigarette, whereupon, according to Fagan, the returning footman took a bottle of famous grouse from the shelf and pours me a glass of whiskey. The Queen herself kept the dogs away from the increasingly agitated Fagan and he remained in the pantry until the police finally arrived. The official Scotland Yard report later confirmed that a piece of glass had been found in the Queen's bed, as well as a blood stain on the bedclothes which had come from the cut in Fagan's thumb. Why did Fagan break into the palace? Motivation for Fagan's break-in is as vague as some of the events of that morning. The unemployed father of 4 variously blamed the influence of alcohol, as well as the magic mushrooms he had put in his soup some 5 months earlier, the aftereffects of which, he claimed, had severely impacted his mental state. Certainly, Fagan was no stranger to the law and, prior to the palace break-in, had chalked up previous convictions for heroin dealing and a number of petty crimes. He also blamed his encounter with the Queen on the disintegration of his marriage and subsequent mental breakdown. His wife, Christine, had left him just weeks earlier, and the misguided idea that the monarch could help him. Fagan's family seemed equally perplexed about the causes of his bizarre actions. According to the Sun newspaper, Fagan had told his wife that he was visiting a girlfriend in SW1 named Elizabeth Regina, who also had 4 children, but who was a little older than him. He had told his mother, too, about an SW1 girlfriend named Elizabeth. Fagan's father, meanwhile, described his son as a royal fanatic, telling the son, "I think he would have put the Queen at ease straight away. He could smooth-talk anyone." But in a 1993 radio interview, Fagan gave listeners more of an insight into why he had broken into the palace. "The Queen, to me, represented all that was keeping me down and my lack of voice," he said. "I just wanted her to know what it feels like to just be an ordinary chap trying to make ends meet." When asked by presenter Jenny Mills if he had wanted to be caught, Fagan agreed, saying, "Yes, just to make that statement, I am. How many times did Michael Fagan break into Buckingham Palace?" The plot was to thicken even more when, in the wake of the scandal, it transpired that Fagan had form when it came to royal break-ins. When interviewed by police, he claimed that his out-of-hours royal excursion on July 9 was, in fact, his second in a matter of weeks. The Sun stated that Fagan had actually made at least 12 visits to the palace. An earlier break-in, Fagan said, had taken place in June. Just a few days later, according to an interview with The Independent, Fagan had stolen a car and driven from London to Stonehenge in search of his estranged wife, who had disappeared with the couple's children, earning himself a 3-week spell in Brixton prison. During the June break-in, Fagan admitted to climbing a drainpipe and entering a window on the 3rd floor. Despite being spotted by a chambermaid, who immediately ran off to alert security, after a brief search, security failed to find anything amiss, and setting off a number of alarms, these were deemed faulty and switched off without investigation. Fagan claimed he had been free to explore the royal residence at his leisure. He had apparently tried out the royal thrones for size and comfort, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, wandered past the rooms of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, urinated in the royal corgi's dog food, after failing to find a toilet, and viewed the Queen's art collection, before setting up camp in room 108, where public gifts for the expected royal baby, Prince William, were being stored. There, he quaffed half a bottle of wine while he waited to be apprehended. When he failed to be discovered, he declared "sod it" and went home. How did Fagan manage to evade security and police? As far as scandals go, the 1982 palace break-in was seismic, both publicly and privately. Then Home Secretary Willie Whitelaw offered his resignation to the Queen. She refused it, while Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher rushed to the palace to apologize personally for the extraordinary lapse in security, a breach which had come just a year after would-be assassin Marcus Sargent had fired 6 blank shots at the Queen during the trooping of the colour ceremony. What happened to Michael Fagan? In September 1982, Michael Fagan was tried for burglary at the Old Bailey as his weeping mother and sisters looked on. According to a report in The Guardian, Fagan smiled at his family, removed his false teeth, winked at girls in the gallery, groaned and wept at various points in proceedings, and was told to be quiet by the recorder, Mr. James Miskin QC. Fortunately for Fagan, trespass was a civil offense in 1982. It would become criminal in 1984, so he was only charged with burglary. Ultimately, the jury took just 14 minutes to acquit him of the charge, and the judge committed Fagan for psychiatric evaluation. Fagan spent more than 3 months at the top security Park Lane Psychiatric Hospital in Liverpool, but was later deemed safe for release following a 3-person, 7-hour mental health tribunal. He walked free in January 1983, despite an angry outcry by Conservative politicians. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher allegedly told Parliament that while she understood the deep feelings of anxiety surrounding Fagan's release, the Home Secretary had no jurisdiction over the case. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.